All right, we've got 6:32 this evening, everyone, and we're going to begin with our Proposition R presentation. I'd first off like to thank everyone for joining us this evening for this presentation. We have a very knowledgeable panel that's going to be speaking tonight about the projects that Hancock Place School District is asking voters to consider on Tuesday, April 6th. My name is Kevin Carl. I'm the superintendent of schools here in the Hancock Place School District. And again, I'd like to be the first of several people to welcome you to this webinar tonight. The next person I'd like to introduce, Mr. Tony Chance. Tony, you want to say a few words?
Sure. My name is Tony Chance. I am the Director of Finance and Business Operations for Hancock Place School District.
So again, our goal this evening is to inform and talk a little bit about Proposition R, replace, renovate, and redesign here in the Hancock Place School District. It is a $13.25 million no tax increase bond issue, again, April 6th on the ballot, to benefit all of our schools and facilities throughout the district. But before we get too far into our presentation, I know we have a lot of people joining us this evening. We're going to ask you to take a quick poll and tell us who you are, because we want to make sure that we customize our presentation as much as possible. So a quick poll is going to pop up on your screen, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're connected to the Hancock Place School District. So Ms. Dirksen, if you could put that poll up, that would be great. So we should have that poll up now. Just again, identify who you are and how you're connected to Hancock Place. Are you a parent, employee, community member, or a student, or maybe someone else, resident? I see those results coming in. We're going to give you about 10 more seconds to respond. All right, we're going to close the poll at this time. So we have a good mix of employees and parents on our call. So again, thank you for joining us. And we are very excited about sharing this information about Proposition R with you. So we'll talk a little bit about, I mentioned that it's a no tax increase bond issue proposal. Tony, why don't you talk a little bit about how can the district raise $13.25 million without it being an increase to taxes?
Sure, exactly. You might wonder, how can a bond issue for that amount not increase the taxes for residents of the Hancock Place School District? So to explain this a little bit better, I'm going to discuss very briefly how bond issues relate to public school finance. So a school district's budget operates with 4 funds, or buckets, if you will, each one having its own specific function. The fund where bond obligations are held and transacted is called the debt service fund. So associated with this fund is a tax levy or a tax rate. So when you receive your property tax bill towards the end of the year, if you look at it closely, you'll see a list of taxing authorities or entities that make up your tax bill. You'll have entities like the sewer district, the fire district, the library, and of course, the school district on there. So with that, you'll see the amount of the tax levy or the rate that you're being charged from each of those entities. So a portion of the tax rate from the school district goes directly to fund the payments for these debt obligations or the bonds that the school district holds. So the way that the debt service fund works for the school district is similar to that of a home equity line of credit. So when you go and take on a loan to do projects or renovations around your house from the bank, you have essentially a bill that comes due. So over time, monthly or yearly, you end up paying down this particular debt. So in the same way, a school district over time will be able to pay down these debt obligations to a point where they can again have available funds to go out and issue a bond for. So we are issuing this Prop R for $13.25 million because we have the availability within our credit, if you will, or the amount that we can issue. And as I mentioned before, there is a rate that's associated with this particular debt service fund. So the reason that it's a no rate tax increase is because of the way I just explained. We are only taking out the amount of money that we can up to our certain limit, and that rate will not change for taxpayers. It will remain the same. So when the tax rate will not increase for this particular bond that we'll have on the April 6th ballot. So having said that, now we can take a look at the projects that will be associated with the Prop R bond issue.
And Tony, one of the things I want to clarify too, just before we click into the next slide, you talk about it's only for facilities and capital improvements. So this bond issue can't be used for things like salaries. It can't be used to pay the light bill. It's only for these capital improvements that we're going to talk about tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I want to make sure that it's a very focused and very specific no tax increase bond issue, and it's one that's been reviewed by our Board of Education and approved by them. So just want to make sure, because sometimes school finance can be a little bit difficult to understand, but this is specifically to make facility improvements. The other thing too that we'll encourage this evening is if you do have questions, at the bottom of your screen you should have a Q&A box that you can click. So if you want to ask some questions as we go throughout the evening, we do have someone helping and moderating those questions, and we want to make sure that we give a chance to respond to those. So let's move to the next slide, Tony, that you mentioned, and let's talk about some of these great projects that we're proposing.
Sure. I'll go through these fairly quickly. We will cover these particular projects in a little bit more detail as we move down the presentation. So what we want to highlight the most about Prop R is the safety and security items that we have included. We have universal key and lock system for our buildings. We have vestibule and front entry safety. We will review and enhance the building intercoms and communication for each of our buildings. The elementary will receive parking and traffic flow redesign. The elementary will also receive new classroom doors. The pre-K building will also receive improved parking and drop-off area. And also we will redo the surface of the playground at the pre-K. Most sites will receive parking lot and asphalt overlays. We will also repair a couple of walls that we have within the district with tuck pointing. Okay, building specific.
All right, moving on to the, these are specific building level projects. So again, one of the neat features of Proposition R, replace, renovate, and redesign, is that there's the broad categories that Tony just spoke about, but then also specific projects at each building. So Tony, why don't you highlight those?
Sure. The elementary, we will have a brand new gymnasium. We will replace some water heaters, and we will also have a brand new renovation for the elementary library. The middle school will get a replacement of its HVAC system. We'll replace the roof at the middle school, and we will improve the secondary common space behind the secondary campus. The high school will pertain mostly to the Heine-Miney athletic fields, and we will do many improvements down there, as you will see here in just a little bit. And the preschool and central office building will also receive a new HVAC system.
All right, so let's talk a little bit. Let's show a little bit of the examples. I think sometimes pictures do speak 1,000 words. So we're gonna move through these quickly, but these items illustrate the need throughout the district. We take tremendous pride in our outstanding facilities for our students, the fact that they're clean, the fact that they're safe, and that they're very well maintained. But even over time, your best facilities have opportunities to improve. So one of the main items at the elementary is traffic flow. If you have children at the elementary, or if you ever have had children at our elementary school, you know that this back area where this yellow arrow is can get rather congested, and frankly is not ideal for student safety. So we are asking our architect and their partners to take a look at the transportation flow at the elementary school, because again, we know that this area in the back can be problematic. And then similarly, these areas in the front where we have our buses staged in the afternoon. So we're taking a look conceptually at a couple of ideas. One would actually move all of the buses to the back, but would involve extending this parking area so that we can swing the buses through, and also looking at the front of the building to lengthen out this circle and potentially move private transportation and cars here to the front. We recognize and know that this is not an ideal situation. The good news is that we do have space, and we have some land that we can manipulate in this area, and we're confident that we can make it safer for students. So we're very excited about that being a component of the elementary project. Classroom doors, you may not think about those often, but again, you can see that some of these are aging, and particularly here to the right, this is an actual door at the elementary school that is in need of repair and replacement. And so again, over time, we believe that this is a great project to help improve the safety and security. We'll be putting in intruder-proof locks, and also some safety features on those doors, which will be enhancements over what we currently have. We're also going to be looking at employee access and safety for them as well. Right now, we have a myriad of keys that our employees have to use to access our buildings. And certainly for our employees that work in multiple buildings, before long, that keychain becomes rather heavy and voluminous in terms of lots of keys that they have to handle. We believe that by having an electronic card type system, we can more effectively monitor the in and out, and also reduce the need to have lots of keys to access our sites. HVAC projects. So these again are some things that you may not see or know about unless you're in our schools. And certainly these are photos, and these are places that we don't often invite our community members or our parents into for a lot of reasons. But here you can see, and these are actual photos that were taken within the last few months at our middle school. This photo to the left actually shows our 2 package heat systems that are in for the building to heat them. And unfortunately, one of those is not currently operating at all. So in a building where we should be relying on 2 major heaters, we've got one that has worked through the winter. And we were fortunate, even through this cold stretch that we saw in February, to make it through. But these systems have come to the end of their useful life. They are about 20 to 25 years old and are in desperate need of replacement. And again, you can see different pumps and different controls in these systems. Proposition R will completely replace the HVAC system at the middle school, and it is an absolutely necessary replacement. In addition to that, we have HVAC units at our preschool that are in need of replacement and repair. These are constantly creating issues for our maintenance staff, and so it's an opportunity for us to replace these units for our 5 preschool classes, as well as for the other side of our central office administration building. Other critical infrastructure pieces, the roof. And again, these are real and actual pictures. As you can see, our middle school roof is in dire need of replacement. You can see in this first photo some severe buckling that's occurring on the shingled roof. This second photo is actually a water stain on the interior. And here you'll see some illustrations of some areas around vents and other locations that are not the way they should be. You've got some exposed nails. And then here at the bottom, this hole next to the vent, we actually had to poke that hole in the ceiling to allow water to come through. Otherwise, it would have built up and created a dangerous situation. So this roof at the middle school is a high priority item, along with the HVAC to be replaced, and Proposition R would indeed address that. At our elementary school, these are water heaters that provide water and hot water throughout the building for our cafeteria, for our restrooms, and other locations. And yes, these should have tops on them. So you'll see these areas that are exposed. And I asked this question too, why don't we have these covered up like you might in your own home with your hot water heater? And unfortunately, the answer is that we have to maintain these so often and do various pieces of improvement to them that it's time consuming and just frustrating to have to take that on and off all the time. So again, these are water heaters that have worked well over the course of their useful life, but they are desperately in need of replacement. Proposition R will replace those. Parking lots, a very critical piece of the infrastructure. We may not think about it often. In fact, we may walk over those cracks each day. But the one thing we don't miss, and our cars never seem to pass by, are these little mini potholes in other areas. But you can see a lot of spidering with the asphalt itself, a lot of cracks. Over time, we slurry seal. We put a coat of blacktop over our parking lots to maintain them. But there does become a point, and you can see even on this picture on the left, where it really gets into the sub base, and it's then time to do some overlays. And that's really where we're at district-wide, is we need to make some improvements with the parking lots by doing overlays with asphalt and even potentially concrete, just depending on how that would work. And again, Proposition R would address that. We've got these outstanding WPA walls. Work Progress Administration came through many, many years ago and built these walls. This is behind the middle school and the high school, and we also have a wall out front of the elementary. And as you can see, again, over time, some of these blocks have come out. There's certainly some need for some tuck pointing and improvement, making sure we just come through and blast these and clean them up a little bit, especially here on the right. You can see the tops of these certainly need some improvement along those lines. So that would be addressed through the proposition, and we're excited to try to make those improvements. On the academic side, certainly we've got some items that will be looked at. And at this point, what I want to do is take the opportunity to introduce one of our partners. While we at the Hancock Place School District have great personnel, there are some projects that are just beyond the scope of our abilities. And so we're going to talk about a couple of the projects at the elementary school where we've enlisted the help of an architectural firm, and we're using HTK Architects. They were approved by the Board of Education. We're very excited to partner with them and also with Landmark Contract Management, who will be part of our team working on these projects at the elementary. And we're so fortunate tonight to have Matt Patterson joining us from the Kansas City area. Matt, we're glad to have you with us. Hopefully you can hear us okay.
Yep. Appreciate you guys inviting us along and to help you guys with the process. And we're excited to work for you guys and help the school district kind of succeed on these projects. You guys got a lot of stuff going on, and we're happy to help.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of navigate, Matt, and you can just tell me when to click ahead, and I'll let you cover the slides and the work that you guys have proposed. And we'll start with the elementary library.
Sure. So the image you're seeing here at the elementary library, we're taking that existing space. We kind of walked through with the staff and kind of noticed that the space is kind of aging and it's in need of a little bit of a facelift. So what we're proposing here is to kind of open that space up and try to carve out some different areas for different learning opportunities. So we've got a maker space in there. We've got some smaller kind of rooms that are available for private student learning or kind of smaller groups. And then we also have some larger areas where you can do bigger student gatherings and kind of cross-pollinate some of the classes and ages so that there's some learning that goes from peer to peer as well as from just for the teachers. And also some kind of small nook areas for the students if they wanted some quiet time or to just kind of read a book, then they have those as well. And I think for the most part, the plan that we landed on, we didn't really expand the existing space a whole lot. We captured a little bit of the outdoor space, but we're also leaving some of that area to the bottom right to show some kind of outdoor classroom space. We're kind of pulling the education outside as well. So we're bringing in a lot of natural light, really opening up that wall right by the outdoor space. So we're getting in a lot of natural light into that space, kind of bringing nature into it. You can jump to the next one and we'll look at some of the renderings on the inside. So this is just kind of some conceptual imagery that shows the image on the left shows kind of a learning stair area, and then those big windows that we're opening up to allow the natural light and the views out just to kind of bring in nature and kind of make it a very fun space. You'll notice in the images too, we're pulling out the ceiling, so we'll kind of add a little bit of height visually to the space, just to kind of open that up and make it less claustrophobic, and kind of putting in some fun ceiling elements to kind of help bring in some of those nature elements too. And then the image on the right shows kind of some of those meeting rooms, and then the little nook area towards the back, and kind of just shows that open concept that we're going for, to kind of provide a lot of space and a lot of opportunities for different learning opportunities for the students, so they can kind of cater their education to their preference and their personalities.
I think one of the things, Matt, that I really like with these is the incorporation of all the light. And I think on the second picture, those are actually some windows that already exist, but they're covered up in the ceiling. So I was really excited to see that. And I think that just creating that openness and then that more light is going to be more inviting, you know, for our kids, and making it more user friendly and certainly future ready when we start thinking about libraries.
For sure. And I hate covering up windows, and I like a lot of the natural light in my spaces. So this is a great opportunity with the exterior wall and plus the windows overhead. So it should be a pretty bright and lively space, which is what we're striving for.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about that gym. I mean, that's another big piece. And for those of you that don't know, the Hancock Place Elementary Gymnasium is the only space in the Hancock Place School District, the only academic space that has no air conditioning. So again, Proposition R will take care of that. So Matt, tell us about the design.
So the design here, if you're standing in the parking lot as it exists now, we're taking over the existing gym area. So this is completely demolishing the existing gym and placing a bigger gym in that same place. And so we have a full size high school court. So this court size is quite a bit bigger than what's currently there. And we're also adding some space around the court, so there's that safety element for, you know, when kids are playing, that they have some runoff space versus just right into an exterior wall or a walkway. So we added some extra space there. So the space feels quite a bit bigger than what the existing gym is. And we rotated it also so that it's kind of parallel to the roadway versus right now it's perpendicular. Something you'll notice is we also pulled in some windows in this space. The size of this, we're sizing to allow for this to be a tornado shelter as well. So in event of high winds, this is where all the students would go to. The windows that you see would be a high impact glazing, so they would be resistant to any tornado and high winds. So there wouldn't be any concern there. But the idea is this could also double as not just a athletic space and some recreation area for the students in case of inclement weather, but if there is some kind of high wind event, then you guys also are protected. So we're seeing that quite a bit in a lot of elementary schools. It's a good use of space to take advantage of the large volume that you have. So it's always a good idea. I think we're also featuring some bleachers. You can kind of see on the left side of the image, size for about 600 or so seats, so that you have some spectating area as well. So whenever there's any kind of function, either for a weekend game or a night game, or for presentations for the school, then you guys have that larger gathering space as well. And
Matt, what about, I know one of the challenges, again, for any of our parents that have been down to the elementary, sometimes they'll see the teacher's desk out in the hallway. Have we addressed anything with storage and space? And then what about restrooms? Anything new with restrooms?
Yeah, so with the storm shelter component, we'll have to add some bathrooms, and we'll have some new upgraded bathrooms as well, so that there'll be a few more fixtures, so that whenever there is a bigger event, you guys can handle that extra capacity versus sending parents and students into the school. We'll have the facilities in the gym itself, so that area is contained, so that, again, back to the safety portion, the doors that go to the existing school can be kind of locked down, so that anybody that's visiting is kind of corralled into just the gym and the toilet areas. But then we did add storage, or lots of storage space for not only the teachers, the coaches that are there, but then also for some wrestling mats, so that this can double as a wrestling area, so that those large mats need a lot of storage space. So this is the storage space that we have allocated will allow for that, which would be beneficial. And then the office space is big enough for the 2 teachers that are there. As you mentioned, the photos that whenever we did a walkthrough, we noticed that they're kind of out in the space. And so this gives them their own area, so that their desk is out of the play zone. So again, that's another hazard that would be impeded by the students playing. So also in this image, you'll notice that we've got a kind of a canopy extended out for parent drop off and pickup. So this would be, in the event that we do flip the parking, we've got the large canopy that would cover for any rain. And then there's also a canopy that's just to the right of that extends the full length of the building. So that's kind of another sunshade / rain shelter area for the pickup and drop off. So that's kind of space that you already have. The wall's already there. So something we can add on to the exterior of the building to kind of have some of that extra play area. So that playground is all to the right. So, if there's any students that are out there during the day and they just want some shade, then they can go over there. Or if they starts raining, then they can hang out until the rain stops or something. So that's just kind of an extra item that's added on that will really make it beneficial and kind of dual use again.
Terrific. All right. And I think that was all the slides. Anything else, Matt, to kind of wrap up your section?
Nope, I think that was it. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys, and we look forward to an exciting project.
Absolutely. And hopefully you can stay on for a few more minutes. We're getting to the end of our presentation, just in case there's any questions. Okay.
Sure thing. Yep.
All right. Appreciate it. So another big component, and I think an important one in our community, is Heine Miney. Heine Miney is a treasure in Lime, and we are very pleased that back in 2012, the Hancock Place School District had the opportunity to purchase Heine Miney. And so we do own and maintain that facility. And with that, we believe that we have a significant responsibility to our community to maintain that at the high quality standards that we hold for all of our buildings. But we've also looked at a design that will best meet the needs of our student athletes. And so with that, I present to you the plan that's been approved by our Board of Education. We have, obviously, here's Field 1 at Heine Miney, and we've made some improvements to that. This project through Proposition R would make some field-based improvements to Field 1 in terms of new grass and leveling. If you've ever been there and you stand at home plate and look out into the outfield, you can see that it slopes down quite a bit. And those of you that are familiar with our athletic programs know that this red rectangle that is in the outfield of Field 1 currently is where we've been playing soccer, but that is far from ideal. So we're very pleased and excited to present this proposal, which would create a standalone soccer field within the confines of Heine Miney. Again, the Hancock Place School District has never had its own soccer field. So we know that this is important. We know it's important for our programs, and we believe that this is a great design and a great way to incorporate that into this complex as we're improving it. So major components in terms of change would be this brand new soccer field, some additional new parking where that back parking lot is currently. That parking lot, as you may know, is really in disrepair and does not represent the quality of the facilities that we want to maintain. So it would improve that significantly. And then we would also be building a brand new softball field, softball complex, moving that in just right behind the first base area of Field 1. It would have completely new dugouts, block dugouts, fence to the outfield, certainly scoreboards and all those other important components. One of the things that we've done to get to this point of asking our community to support Proposition R is that we have a facilities committee that meets on an ongoing basis to identify needs throughout the district. And we have worked very closely with the facilities committee and with our activities director and our coaches to get their input. So they have been closely involved and have had a great deal of ideas and that they've been able to incorporate into this design. So again, we're very excited that with the support of our community with Proposition R, that we can make these improvements and move along fairly quickly. So that brings us to the next slide. And Tony, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about this, but I think the next question would be is, what happens if the district is successful with Proposition R? How quickly would some of these projects get done?
Sure. So we're going to talk about the when. So for the elementary, the gymnasium will not begin until later on in the fall of this year, 2021. The replacement of the water heaters that you saw earlier, those will be done immediately over the summer. The future ready library renovations at the elementary, that will also be pushed to the spring of 2022. At the middle school, the HVAC replacement and the roof replacement both will be done immediately because those are one of our top priority projects that need to be accomplished. At the high school, regarding Heine Miney that we just talked about, those improvements can also be done over this summer. The next item, the preschool and central office HVAC replacement, that can also be done this summer. So we've kind of got a balanced approach to all the projects that we are hoping to accomplish through Proposition R.
And it's really a combination of trying to phase things in a manner that is going to be the least disruptive to the academic process. Obviously, when you demolish a gym and you renovate a library, you've got to relocate some students. And so there was some thought that went into that process in terms of pushing that off. But as you saw in those earlier photos, the HVAC and the roof at the middle school in particular, those cannot wait. And so those are projects that we would begin immediately and have those ready for school to start again in the fall. So we're going to give you another quick poll, if you would, and we're going to ask you just to let us know of the projects on the list, which one is most important to you. So we're going to take just a quick 15, 20 seconds, take a look, and you can vote multiple times, but which projects really grab your attention. And then a reminder, if you have questions, please put those down in the Q&A, and we'll take a few moments to answer those questions to the best of our ability here in a few minutes. So again, take another 5 or 6 seconds and identify those projects, and then we'll share those with everyone. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, let me share those out. So you should see there that coming in with the tie in terms of the projects that we've identified, those great projects at the middle school for HVAC and roof replacement are tied with safety and our safety enhancements throughout the district. And then right following that, we've got our gym, our future ready library, and then of course our traffic flow. So that is extremely helpful, and we appreciate you providing that, that input for us. So at this point, we are at the end of our webinar this evening. Again, I really want to thank our panelists, Matt Patterson from HTK Architects, Tony Chance from our central office for being here. And we want to take a look at a few of these questions and see if we can get those answered tonight. I know one of the questions that came in, I believe, was around the selection of either construction partners or people. Ms. Dirksen, did you have that question? I'm not able to pull that one up.
I do. Mr. Chance had answered it, but I think it's good for everybody to know. It was asked, do you have a company for tuck pointing?
So right at this particular moment, we essentially aren't going to put the cart before the horse. So we're being very cautious about obligating anything towards these projects until we have the passage of Proposition R come this April 6th.
Our next question, if taxes aren't being raised, where will the funds come from?
Tony, you want to take that one?
Sure. If taxes aren't being raised, where will the funds come from? So I'm not exactly sure. So if we don't pass the bond issue, where will the funds come from?
No, I think the question is maybe more about how does that process work? In other words, we're saying it's a no tax increase bond issue.
Right.
How is that possible? In other words, if you're not raising anything,
oh, okay.
I think the question is, then how do you get any money? Which I think is a great question, by the way. And I think one that people often ask us.
Sure. Just to leapfrog off of what I was talking about before earlier in the presentation, it's not that we're not raising any taxes. It's that the tax rate that we currently have for our debt service fund is going to remain the same. So that piece of the overall tax rate that you see on your tax bill is not going to change. So that rate that we have is sufficient for the $13.25 million that we to raise with this particular bond issue. So I hope that clarifies it there a little bit.
I think that helps. I think the other piece that's important is, again, we have 4 different funds for the district. We have an operating fund, we have a teacher's fund, we have a debt service fund, and we have capital projects. This is specific to our debt service fund. So right now we levy $1.22 in our debt service levy, and that amount will not change. And so as we continue to have that levy in there, well, how do we generate this money? We generate it because we've been paying off our debt on an ongoing basis each year. So it's almost like, as Tony had mentioned earlier, creating equity in your home. So when we say it's a no tax increase, no increase to the debt service levy, and we're going to hold our levy constant to continue to generate funds through that process. So that's how it's not an increase to that specific fund. And again, it's really important, and I want to reemphasize that these funds generated are only for these facility improvements that we've shown. The only addition to that would be if we were able, through economy of scale or good pricing, to get all of these projects done within the $13.25 million. There are other auxiliary projects that have been identified by our facilities committee that could be considered at this time. But these are the priority projects that we've shared this evening. So great question. And as I said, school finance can be complicating and a little nerve-wracking at times, that's for sure. So I welcome and appreciate the question. We're going to take just another 30 seconds or so. If anybody else has a question, again, I know, it's a busy time. It's warming up. Sun shines out. We feel like we can get out and stretch our legs a little bit. So we greatly appreciate everyone who's joined us this evening to learn a little bit more about Proposition R. Again, we would just ask you to go and vote on April 6th. And, we appreciate you being here. Tony, anything from either you or Matt in closing?
I don't believe so at this time. I think we covered things pretty well.
Nope. Thank you, guys.
Okay, well, we appreciate it. Again, we're going to wrap up. I also would encourage any of our participants this evening, if you have other questions or you'd like more information, our district website is a great place to go and get those things. We have also been posting periodically on our Facebook pages, both the district and specific school Facebook pages, short videos, about 2 minutes, that will tell you about these specific projects. And you can hear from the building principals and our teachers about why this is so important and will help and support our students. Periodically, you'll see things on our Twitter. If you don't follow me, please do, at Hancock Soup. And then there's a great video overview on the Hancock Place YouTube page that's a little bit longer, a little bit more comprehensive, but hopefully will answer any and all questions that you have. And like I said, finally, if you don't find those answers, please give us a call at our office, reach out to us directly. We would love to make sure that you have all of the information necessary before you go and vote on April 6th. With that, we're going to close our webinar this evening. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Be safe out there and have a great night. Thank you very much.